Accept your thoughts and feelings as natural to you in the moment, whether they're positive or negative. Just accept them as you would in meditation.
83% of Americans identify as not very happy, which can hold you back and negatively affect your relationships and your business. On this podcast, we discuss the proven steps to happiness so you can restore balance and rekindle your joy.
Welcome back to How to Be Happier for Entrepreneurs. This is the show, although we say entrepreneurs, for all human beings and anybody that interacts with other human beings. Whether you're a visionary, you're a leader, or you're a part of a team, or you're an individual, it doesn't matter what role you play. What matters is that you start living your life the way that you want to live it, not necessarily the way that others make you feel you should, because that just leads to burnout. So we're going to start aligning our business with something deeper. I'm the host today, of course. You've heard me before. I'm our Chief Happiness Officer at Limitless You. But today, I am definitely in the background. I am hosting somebody that has amazing wisdom, life experience. Today's episode is a soul level conversation, and it's one that I want you to take some time and tune into. I know you're probably multitasking. Press pause. Come back to us. Listen when you can truly listen with your heart. Our guest, Dan Millman, is the author of The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, a former world champion athlete, and a teacher of purpose, presence, and personal power. He has 18 books that have been translated into 29 languages, and his teachings have impacted millions. Those that are on their path to leading and living a life with more joy. So let's do it. Today, Dan, I want to dive in, give our listeners value they can use right away, helping them understand what does it mean and how do I live with peace and power in today's high pressure world. Dan, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to help you share your wisdom with the world.
Thank you, Yvonne. And I appreciate that introduction because I speak not to people's roles, but to their humanity. And we've all had our own life experiences that have brought us to this point in time. For those who are not familiar with my work or the term peaceful warrior, I'd like to maybe give a brief explanation. I was an assistant professor at Oberlin College in Ohio many decades ago, and I was teaching a martial arts course that involved Aikido and Tai Chi. And I was going to call it The Way of the Warrior for the catalog, which made some sense. They're both martial arts. But then I realized, these are receptive martial arts. They're not aggressive. And then in a light bulb moment, I said, hey, why don't I call it The Way of the Peaceful Warrior? And that's when I came up with the term. But over time, it has deepened to refer to all of us, each of us and all of us, because every one of us is striving to live with a more peaceful heart, a sense of serenity, equanimity in the storms of everyday life. But at the same time, there are moments we need to recognize that we need to draw upon a warrior spirit. And I don't mean necessarily about fighting, except with those inner demons like self-doubt, insecurity, and so on. But really, it's about rolling up our sleeves and marching into everyday life, which is a form of spiritual weight training. If we don't lift any weights, we don't get any stronger. So that's the idea behind the term peaceful warrior and why I view everyone as a peaceful warrior in training in the School of Daily Life.
I'm so glad you started with that. The English language is one of the most difficult languages for other people to understand because of the multiplicity of meanings with words. And that's even without understanding how your subconscious and your conditioning from when you were a teeny tiny little kiddo has impacted the meaning that you give a word or an experience without you even consciously knowing it. It just happens automatically in the background.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we help people at Limitless You, our sponsor. And we'll talk more about that later. But I want to not rush through this, because when I hear the word warrior, I think fight. When I hear the word warrior, I think there's something to defend. When I hear the word warrior, that means there's something to fear. And so, especially now in this time, and we're going to get real a little bit, I am not a political person. I believe in humanity. I believe in human connection. I believe in touching souls, right? And if I'm in a state of fight or a state of fear, there's no way that I can really help another individual, because that vibrational energy will come out of me and will poison them.
Mhm.
And so I really want to focus on the intent in our conversation of the words. It's very important, right? Because even if people are listening very thoughtfully, peaceful, kind of you hear it, but then you quickly pass on, and warrior, that's a strong word. And so then their brains automatically go, okay, what is there to defend? What is there to fear? So I want to be thoughtful about that as we talk today. And I want you to help us understand in that spirit, what were the key turning points in your life? Because I believe in experience-led wisdom, so that we can share with others and they can apply it and it can resonate. What are the key turning points that pulled you out of that performance and that state of kind of the traditional definition of warrior and into purpose and into peace? Because that's a slippery slope. And even if you get there, like I'm a certified yoga instructor, I'm an avid meditator, it takes practice. And a lot of people don't always prioritize the time to practice. And then you can slip into the old warrior mode because you don't think you have time or the luxury for the peaceful mode, or that that's not possible for you. And you get caught in this constant state of doing. So tell us, what have you learned? What wisdom can you share so that we can learn to slow down, reconnect with presence, right? And connect to purpose and peace.
Wow, you've raised so many points that I would love to address. Um, First of all, it's not either or. That's the point. The peaceful modifies the warrior part. Now, there are people who live as warriors, police, military, firefighters, people who put themselves in harm's way. And it takes great courage. They deal with fear. Um, so to help protect the rest of us in that sense. So I don't mean to disparage that term, but martial arts are part of my background. I was a young gymnast for many, many years, training in that field. I won a world championship and so on way back in college. Um, and there are certain sports, for example, or activities that are say warrior sports, because you could break your neck, you can get seriously injured. Probably in golf or tennis, it's not high risk, but skydiving, high risk sports, bull riding, those kinds of things address. It's like you have to be present or die. You have to bring your focus back into the present moment. We've all heard this. And anybody who's done yoga, anybody who's done meditation, or read Be Here Now, Ram Dass, or The Power of Now, Tolle, and in my work as well, I emphasize that idea. But I like to clarify what it means to be present and to live in the present moment. Because people sometimes write me and say, Dan, how can I learn to live in the present moment? Well, as a matter of fact, our bodies cannot live anywhere but the present moment. They exist moment to moment. But
Yes.
it's the mind that and our attention that goes into illusory areas, what we call the past, which is gone, but we bring it into the present in the form of what we call memory, those neurological impulses we call memory. That's what the past consists of. And even if someone said, oh no, I know the past is real, Dan, here's a photograph of me at my last birthday party. Well, all that's happening in reality is they are showing me in this moment a photographic image that reminds them of a memory attached to a memory. So regrets are only they're illusions because they deal with this thing we call the past. And in the future, it's our imagination. The future never arrives. It's always the future. But we talk about it as if it's real. All we have is this moment. And it's wonderful human capacity to be able to imagine or plan our day, for example, but it rarely turns out just the way we planned. Or to remember, these are valuable human capacities. But we get into trouble when they become more real than this moment. So any physicist will tell you that there's no such thing as the present moment. Because even if I say the word now, from the time I said to ow, 1,000,000 nanoseconds have passed. Which nanosecond is the present moment? So there's no factual present moment, but what teachers like myself are really saying, and you, and so on, is handle what's in front of you. Focus on your behavior, because our lives are shaped primarily, and this is maybe a bit different from what some people understand. Our lives are shaped by what we have done over time to bring us to this moment, not necessarily by our thoughts or feelings. Let me just clarify that. Feelings, emotions are very important. Many people want to strive for enlightenment or personal growth, personal development, because really they want to feel good more of the time and feel bad less of the time. So emotions are central to our lives, but we have very little direct control over them by our will. We can't will ourselves to feel different than how we feel in each passing moment. Emotions are the weather patterns of the body. They pass and change all the time, just like our thoughts. Thoughts arise, they appear in our awareness, and then they move on. And it's more blissful when we're immersed in some activity. That's why people like to play frisbee or do musical instruments or perform, because it pulls us back into this present moment. And that's a blissful feeling, rather than wandering from the past to the future, what we call that memory and imagination. So that's why if we want a quiet mind, many people say, oh, I don't meditate very well. I'm poor at it because my mind is running. And I think I'm supposed to stop my thoughts. But actually, meditation is to see the illusory nature of thoughts. We sit, we are stable, our eyes are half closed or all closed, and we see the thoughts, we feel the emotions. This word mindfulness, it's become a thing. Like I practice mindfulness, but actually mindfulness only means this: paying attention to what's going on in the present moment, what's in front of us, without judgments. And if we are paying attention to what's internal, as you well know, Yvonne, if we pay attention to what's inside us, we call it mindfulness meditation, inner content. And we just watch it arise and pass, arise and pass. And if we pay attention, even more importantly, because we don't live our lives in a lotus position, if we live actively in the world. So if we're paying attention to what's going on around us, that's also mindfulness, paying attention. It's pretty straightforward, but again, we are seduced by ideas from the past. I wish I hadn't done this. If I could have said that differently, regrets, and then imaginations about the future, anxieties about a meeting we're going to, or whatever. But if we just focus on the peace of this moment, and that really that quiets the mind, because we can only think about what has already happened or what we anticipate is going to happen. In the present moment, if I were to throw you a set of keys and said, catch, and you were reaching for those keys, you would have a cat-like awareness. It's right in the present moment, and you're not thinking about what you had lunch yesterday or what you're going to do tomorrow. It's just pure awareness. Again, that's why playing catch and doing sports pulls us back into that absorption, that flow of the present moment. So that's really what I have to say about the idea of being in the present is just breaking a bad habit and seeing the illusions of what we call past and future. Essentially, now is real. This is our moment of sanity. This is our moment of awareness, of power, and of peace.
Yeah. I like to play devil's advocate a little bit because
Sure.
I speak with a lot of entrepreneurs and in my community, and I kind of I feel very aligned with what you've said. I also know that people have questions, and they sometimes don't see. I think the thing that I really want people to hear about what you just said is the illusion of what you believe to be true, right? So I'm a student of Sadhguru, a student of Dispenza, and he's like, try to be in the past. You can't be in the past. Try to be in the future. You can't be in the future. But we fear the past, or we fear the future, or we live in these emotions in a state about something that's not even real. So he's like, isn't that schizophrenia? But we all live in this socially acceptable level of schizophrenia, right?
Mhm.
Based upon things that are not real, including our thoughts. So some of the things, I'll ask people to do is speak their thoughts aloud, and not from a place of judgment, but a place of like, what story am I telling myself? And how do I communicate in a way where I actually find the truth, whether it's my truth or a shared truth with another individual? So here's the devil's advocate part, though. Let's
Mhm.
just role play a little bit.
Sure.
So, Dan, I hear you, but I'm a busy entrepreneur. I don't have a paycheck coming in. I can't sit and just think about the present moment because I have to think about the changing economy and the environment. And I have all these employees. And like, so people start rolling in the fear of the unknown, right? Business owners face fear, whether it's financial fear, imposter syndrome, feel of failure, whatever it is. So, I want you to help them understand, like, take this the next step further. You've said that true power begins when fear ends. And we've also been talking about the present, and fear takes us out of the present. So let's talk a little bit more about what advice do you have for those business owners in a tactical thing they can start today? And I always tell people, don't believe me, don't believe Dan, don't believe anybody I have on the show.
Sure.
Take it, experiment with it, see
Right.
how it works. If it works, keep doing it and come ask more questions. And I'm going to put up here right now for those of you that after today, you're like, that moved me. I want to talk to Dan. You can go find him at peacefulwarrior.com. And if you want to reach out to me at Limitless You, it's unlocklimitlessyou.com/call. But I want you to listen for now. And Dan's going to give you something that you can practice today. And then you
Yes.
can decide if you want to learn more.
Yes.
So,
Um,
Dan, what can they
mhm.
practice to see the illusion of their fears and what's fueling their fears? And then to live in the present moment and the next present moment and the next present moment and the next present moment in peace and flow.
Right. Well, one sage named Shoma Morita once advised people to live wisely and well. There are three things you can do. First, accept your thoughts and feelings as natural to you in the moment, whether they're positive or negative. Just accept them as you would in meditation. Notice
Right.
they're there. The second thing is focus on a purpose. What do you want to get done in a practical way in everyday life? Because life, as I mentioned before, is a form of spiritual weight training. And I want to say something about that more in a moment. But um, so focus on a goal. What do you want to get done? And then third, do what needs to be done in line with your goal, not in line with Dan's or Yvonne's philosophy or ideas or what a holy book says, but focus on what do you need to get done and then do what needs to be done. And those are very practical steps. By the way, I want to first say I am an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for many years. I I have a really tough boss, and I'm self-employed. So, I understand what it's like not having a boss, work to go to. I've been a writer and a speaker, been to 32 countries over the last 40 years, speaking, teaching. So I can relate to the challenges of entrepreneurial work, whether it's a startup, in the technology area, or another form of work. It's really, I admire entrepreneurs in the sense that there's a safety about just going to a job, getting a salary, withholding and all those practical things, and saying I'm going out on my own, be my own boss, call my own hours. That takes a special kind of person. And since the theme of your show is happiness and the entrepreneur, let me just say this. One of the best things about going to college is you find out it doesn't make you happy. Maybe a brief moment when they hand you the diploma, no more homework and that sort of thing. But really, there are people who will go for years saying, if only I'd gone to college, I'd be happy. If only I found a perfect or improved relationship, I'd be happy. If only I had children, I'd be happy. If only I hadn't had children, I'd be happy. If only I made more money. If only I traveled more. If only I got more respect. And when I retire, then I'll be happy. But we finally realize there's no such thing as future happiness. It's either now as a practice we bring to life, not just a feeling that descends upon us, but as a practice. We all know that when we're feeling happy, we're more expansive, we're more present, we're kinder. And so just bring that into life, that happiness behavior, and that can impact all those people around us. Now, that doesn't really address the practical challenges. There are entrepreneurial coaches who talk about the money management and how to form a business and do marketing and so on. I will say this general principle. To be successful, conventionally speaking, successful at what you do, you have to be good at two things. You have to be good at what you do, and that means practice over time, experience. And you have to be good at marketing or promoting what you do. And most of us don't really like doing that much. In the field of authorship, for example, writing, I just read in the Authors Guild Bulletin the other day, and I really agreed with this, that it's easier than ever to get published. You can publish yourself online, digital books, and so on. But it's very difficult to market and sell your work, to rise above the noise. And that's, many people are, dealing with rising above the noise. But we don't just market ourselves or promote ourselves or our product or our work for ourselves. You can't help someone unless they know you exist.
Mhm.
So it's a necessary part of the work we do, of improving and doing, getting better over time. That's why I like medicine. They call it a medical practice. We continue to practice and get better. And then again, letting people know about ourselves and our work. And whatever feelings come up inside, again, it's accept your feelings and thoughts, positive or negative, doubts, insecurity, whatever, charlatan ideas, that we think, oh, we're faking it all. But while all that complication is coming up, by the way, Barbara Rasp had a wonderful quote. She said, the lesson is simple, the student is complicated.
Yeah.
So with all the complications, nonetheless, it's accept your thoughts and feelings, focus on your purpose, and do what needs to be done.
Yes.
And I also want to address adversity. Sometimes when I'm speaking to a large audience, I'll ask people for a show of hands, and I'll ask, have you ever experienced physical, emotional, or mental pain in your life? And of course, all the hands go up. And I say, well, we can disagree on some things, because if we agree on everything, only one of us is necessary. But I hope we can agree on this. Wouldn't you say the adversity you've been through, the difficulties, the challenges, the setbacks, wouldn't you say that you're a little bit wiser now because of that, in a sense of perspective? Wouldn't you say you're a little bit stronger now based on the adversity, the difficulties, the challenges you've faced? Sometimes digging out of a dark hole can give us the strength to climb the mountain. So adversity, I think we all understand there are benefits in that spiritual weight training. You don't lift any weights, you don't get stronger. So,
Absolutely.
so in fact, many of us volunteer for adversity. I ask people, have you ever engaged in physical exercise or a sport? Life is easier without those things. We just kick back. But that develops us, makes us stronger and wiser. Adversity, like has anyone maintained an intimate relationship for more than, say, a couple weeks? Voluntary adversity. My wife Joy and I have been married. We'll celebrate our 50th wedding anniversary this year.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. But still, we bump heads now and then. We don't take it as seriously these days. But relationship is challenging. It develops you. You learn a lot about yourself, right? And has anyone raised children? Voluntary adversity. I have 3 daughters and a bunch of grandkids, but our nerve endings are really out there. It's not easy. They say mature adults don't make children. Children make mature adults. And engaging in the world of business is a form of voluntary adversity, but that is what develops us as human beings. It's a path. It becomes a way, and that's why, again, I see all of us as peaceful warriors in training. The
Yeah, I
warrior.
love that. There's a couple things I want to pull on and accentuate. The first is, we're here on Earth School. Like, if we're not growing, what are we doing?
Right.
And so, one of the things that we talk about a lot in my community is like, well, this is good. This is happening because, like, we have to train our minds, right? Just like you said, like, we go to the gym to train our body. If we went once, we wouldn't see many results, right? Just if like you went through, well, like one hypnosis session, but you didn't do anything with it, right? Or if you didn't like, you tried like one difficult thing and then you're like, I never want to do anything difficult again. And you isolate yourself. You're not going to grow. So if you can begin to say, this is good, this is happening because where you put your attention is where your energy goes.
Mhm.
So like Dan said, like, well, why might that conflict with my spouse be good? Oh, we're able to talk to each other. We're practicing speaking out of loving kindness instead of resentment and judgment. We're learning about each other. We're going to have, a much better time next time we do this because now we have a deeper understanding of each other. Why is this happening in business? Well, this is good. This is happening because I'm better understanding my, community. I'm better understanding whatever it is. Like, I challenge you just today, anytime something comes up that you're like, "Argh," just say, this is good. This is happening because, and make yourself finish that sentence.
Mhm.
This is not just positive talk. This is neuroplasticity and subconscious rewiring because you can listen to Dan all day long. And if you don't practice, right, if you don't bring it into your world and do that mental, spiritual weightlifting, your mind isn't going to change. So you have to continue to practice and to rewire. I love your example talking about how sometimes people have these fears. I am new to entrepreneurship, actually. I'm like maybe 2 years and a half. I come from corporate America. I was 25 years at Accenture, W-2, solving problems, but always had the paycheck. And I didn't have to, I avoided sales and marketing like the plague
Mhm.
because I never wanted people to think that I just wanted their money and I don't want to help them. Right. And so when you were talking about, well, if you want to help people, you have to be able to communicate and they have to understand how you can help them.
Right.
And that I think is a big thing for a lot of people. And sometimes they go on the pendulum the wrong way and they're just trying to get the sale because they have so much pressure and metrics and they're not taught to focus on the human. And then sometimes you're like the old me and still the me in progress. It's like, well, I just want to like hold hands and sing kumbaya and make everybody happy, right? So I love the balance that you talked about. It's not that you don't care, it's that because you care, right? So when I first started to have to do sales calls for Limitless You, oh, I hated it. I hated it.
Mhm.
But then I'm like, well, let me just turn this into a gift. Let me just help them. I'm not focused on the outcome, even though I hope there is an outcome where we get to continue to work together. Let me just focus on how can I be of service to you right now? What is valuable right now? Because it goes back to the other thing that you said of being present. And why are you doing what you're doing? Because if you're just trying to make money, well, it's just dirty paper. What do you, like there's an emotional payoff. What is the emotional payoff that you're looking for that goes along with what you think the financial reward is? Because a lot of people, especially in my old world, they hustle, 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 go for the titles, go for the money, and they're still not happy. Just like the college doesn't make you happy, the money doesn't make you happy if it's not with purpose, with soul. So I want to go to something else you've written about on that note. You've written about the four purposes of life.
Yes.
And some people, when I talk about this, they kind of turn their ears off and they're like, oh, Yvonne, it's easy for you to say. I'm like, well, no, it's not easy. I'm a single mama. My ex doesn't really contribute as much as he's supposed to. Like, I'm doing it all. So it's not easy, guys. I might look sometimes like it's easy, but it's not easy until you choose easy. So I've started to choose easy and started to choose my purpose, and that's what makes it easy. Even when somebody else in the same exact situation would be scared and thinking it's hard. So, but I want to hear what your thoughts are. Like, not only what are the four purposes of life, how can people apply them when they're building a business or trying to grow a business and it really serve as their compass rather than going into overwhelm or confusion and saying, "Oh, I can't focus on the purpose." Does that make sense?
Sure, sure. In fact, when I watched my little granddaughter crawling across the floor, she wasn't doing it to get a workout. She wanted her brother's shiny toy, and she was going for it because we're hardwired from very, very young ages as goal seekers. In the Peaceful Warrior movie that was based on my first book, that came out in 2006, there's a scene in which the old man, the old gas station mechanic, I called Socrates, and myself, my character, that we hike up a hill. And Dan, the character, has this revelation. He said, Socrates, I realize it's not the destination that makes us happy, it's the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And there was certain wisdom in that revelation because most of our lives are spent on the journey, not just reaching the destination. And yet, without a destination in mind, there is no journey. We just wander around aimlessly. So from our point A, we need a point B. I would define success as making progress toward a meaningful goal that's meaningful to us. So that's why I do emphasize purposes. I wrote one book, Living on Purpose. I wrote another book, The Life You Were Born to Live, the four purposes of life, as you point out. And so getting back to that book, I want to say that one facet of that book is about self-knowledge. All educational, spiritual, psychological traditions agree on one thing: know thyself.
Yep.
Because if we don't know ourselves, and it takes time to develop that self-knowledge, we don't just get it in college or high school or whatever. It takes time testing ourselves. If we don't know ourselves well, we end up making the right decision for the wrong person, the one we thought we were. And how many of us have had that experience in a relationship or in a career choice? So specifically, self-knowledge involves, what are my talents? What am I good at and not good at? What do I want to pursue? And second, what are my interests? And it's not easy to sort those out against what I think I should be doing,
Yes.
or what someone else thinks I should be doing because it's high status or whatever. But what am I really interested in? It takes time to develop that. And third, what are my values? And that takes testing against the world. Where is this, in line with my values? Do I want to do it just to make money? What's the point? That's like doing sports just to amass trophies. You miss the point of the innate value in the work you do. So there was one sage who said, aim for service, and success will follow. Don't aim for success. And in fact, I advise people in a similar way, do not aim for success because that's not in our control. Aim for excellence. And if we aim for excellence moment to moment in how we communicate, how we breathe, how we move, how relaxed we are, if we aim for excellence over time, that is going to make a real difference in our lives, not aiming for success, some abstract idea. And in fact, well, I lost that thought, so let's move on from there. But the four purposes of life, the first is basically learning life's lessons, and that involves self-knowledge, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And life, daily life, it's the trust that daily life is guaranteed to teach us everything we need to learn in order to evolve as human beings. You do a lot of yoga, right, Yvonne?
Yes.
And you know very well that when we roll up the yoga mats, class isn't over.
No,
It
it's beginning.
continues into everyday life. All that we learn on the mat, we can apply in our everyday lives. All that we learn from a sport or playing a musical instrument or doing our entrepreneurial work, that can carry over into everyday life. There's a Japanese saying, how we do anything is how we do everything. So that involves finding a metaphor for our lives, and we will look back. What do you want to look back on? That's what I ask anybody. 10 years from now, uh, taking on that challenge. I've known adversity in my life. It hasn't been easy. I shattered my leg. In fact, in the Peaceful Warrior movie and in the book, I shattered my leg in about 40 pieces, my right femur, in a motorcycle crash. Now, people have been injured worse than that, brain injuries and so on, but it was pretty disorienting and disruptive, and quite painful. Um, and I ended up in real life coming back from that and rejoining my gymnastics team, and we won the national championships and all that. But the point is, it doesn't always work that way. We cannot control the outcomes, but we can control our efforts. And by making a good effort over time, we're much more likely to reach our goals than not making the effort. So despite the doubts that arise, the insecurity, um, the idea that, oh, I'm not really cut out for this, that's part of the doubts. If we persist over time, that really makes the difference. And what that time is, the length of the time frame, cannot say. But by making that effort, we up the odds of success over not making it. So that's what we can control over time. We have very little control over arising and changing emotions by our will, very little control over thoughts that arise in our awareness. We don't have a spam filter in our heads. So sometimes our thoughts are positive, sometimes they're negative. That's fine. Meanwhile, what do I need to do right now? And that is the key, really the master key for living.
I love that. There's a couple things you said I'm going to put up here. And then for those of you that are listening, we have some free resources to help you think about some of the things that Dan said at unlocklimitlessyou.com/resources. The two I want to pull on is because I want you guys to do something today. And the first is, like Dan was saying, like, you don't have a lie detector. Well, I'm giving you a lie detector. Here, there's a limiting belief lie detector. And there's also something called the joy regenerator. So when those, like you said, the weather of your emotions or the thoughts come in, it gives you a peaceful way to look at them, to understand how is your body processing them? Why is your body creating those feelings, those sensations? And then getting curious about what meaning is your mind automatically making of something that's happening outside of you. So I want you to practice with the wisdom that Dan shared today. Go download the Joy Regenerator, go download the Limiting Belief Lie Detector. And also there's something on there as getting to the root of it. When Dan says goals, when he talks about purpose, quite often I work with people like, how did I get that? Or I don't have time, or it's so elusive, or like I thought, I have to wait 7 to 10 years until my kids are out of college and they don't need me anymore before I can start living my own purposeful life. Like it had a fear of the unknown. So I want you to get to why you have your goals, or like I don't love the word goals just because I have probably some pre-drilled things in my mind about what goals and how people stray from their purpose when they're focused on goals. What I want you to think about what Dan said. What are your interests? Or even dare to desire. Ooh, desire. We're not talking about a rated R movie. Like, what lights you up inside? And then figure out, why does that light you up inside? And that will help you navigate in a way that is peaceful and purposeful. And it doesn't have to be overnight, and it doesn't have to take 20 years or a lifetime either. It's just listening to your heart. And yes, your heart can speak to you. Ask your heart what it needs right now. There's a free meditation that you can get that we have, like connecting to your heart. My heart, what do you need right now? Like, if you don't know who you are, your heart does. And I want you to find a way to start listening so that you can live as a peaceful warrior, as Dan says. So, Dan, I wish we had much more time than we do, but I want to ask you, oh gosh, there's a couple of things, but I want to ask you one thing, which is, what is a limiting belief that you've had to overcome in your life? And how did what you've learned as the peaceful warrior help you get there?
Well, maybe I can respond to that by telling a brief story. Because many entrepreneurs and many human beings deal with stress in their lives. And a young man came up to me after a talk I gave at a college years ago. And he said, Dan, you mentioned you sometimes do one-on-one consultations with people, but that must cost a lot of money for your time. But what can you tell a poor college student for $1? And he handed me $1.
Yeah.
And I gave him 6 words that were a way to deal with stress and a lifetime practice. So I'd like to close on that practical note. That those 6 words were here and now. We've already discussed that. Breathe and relax.
Yes.
Stress is a part of everyday life. If we don't care about anything, then we're never stressed. But we do care. We care about our work, our loved ones, our lives. So stress will be a part of our lives, but stress does not have to be harmful. It's not the stress. That's an abstract idea. It's a feeling in our heads or our stomachs or whatever, a physical feeling. But it's the tension that goes along with stress. It's the inhibited breathing that goes along with stress. And fortunately, we can control 2 things in our lives, which is relaxing the body. If we can tense the body, as you know, in Shavasana pose and so on, we tense and then we relax. We can relax the body at any point in time. And we can take a nice deep breath. So can you imagine yourself breathing deeply and slowly like a pendulum and relax, the body's relaxed, and you're saying to yourself, wow, this is really a stressful time. But that's a whole different experience than being tense and holding our breath and being stressed. So in dealing with stress, a practical note to leave on, I think it's very important to remember just these simple things. Take a deep breath, let it go, shake loose, relax the body. And this is true even martial artists being attacked by multiple attackers. They need to breathe and relax. And they're much more effective. And that's true for peaceful warriors in the school of everyday life.
I love that. And if you're like, well, I'm not a yogi, you're a human being. This is the key. This is why, just think about it this way. What's the one thing you can't live without, I think, for more than 4.5 minutes?
Yep.
What's the thing that you can't control? Like, if you think about your autonomic nervous system, the things that you are required to have in order to stay alive, your creator has given you the ability to influence your breath. And that's the only thing. And it's the only thing you can't live without. So that's a pretty big clue. It's probably important. And you should, I'm not going to shit all over people. I invite you to take Dan's parting words to heart and just try it and know that it's really very, very essential. It's not a luxury. So if today's episode has moved you, if you're like, I need to learn more, you can go and connect with Dan and figure out what are all his books and these great works of art that he's created at peacefulwarrior.com. Dan, thank you for bringing your wisdom, your grace and presence to this conversation. I've truly enjoyed it. I feel like we've infused this space with soul and a presence that's more powerful than any pressure.
I appreciate the opportunity and thank you for the invitation, Yvonne.
Absolutely. I'm going to let Dan go here. Just stay with us for one more minute. I think it's literally 62 seconds to hear from a sponsor message from Brad and I at Limitless You. It's something that we recorded that we want to make sure you understand you're not alone. And that whether it's with Dan or with us, you don't have to do it on your own. You don't have to struggle. Find some support in finding that peace and that purpose and that power right here, right now, in this very present moment. Until next time, lead with presence, live with purpose, and remember, you don't have to know it all or do more. You just get to be here now. Thanks so much, Dan.
You're very welcome.
Namaste.
Hi, I'm Brad Chandler. For over 20 years, I flipped 4,500 homes, chasing success I thought would bring peace. What I didn't realize was the stress and chaos weren't from my business. They were signals of deeper issues.
And I'm Yvonne. My path was different, but equally eye-opening. I spent years transforming organizations into high-performing powerhouses, yet I neglected my own well-being. When I began uncovering subconscious patterns and listening to my body, everything changed.
That's why we founded Limitless You, to help business owners and executives like you uncover and conquer the subconscious beliefs holding you back. Whether it's the stress of business chaos, overworking, relationship problems, or anxiety and self-doubt, these are signals, indicators of deeper patterns that can be rewired to unlock your full potential.
Imagine building a business that fuels your joy and fulfillment.
If you're ready to stop surviving and start thriving, visit unlocklimitlessyou.com and book a free session.
Let us help you build a life that doesn't just look good, but also feels good.
Hit subscribe if you don't want to miss out on more life-changing content. And if you're struggling, you don't have to. Go to bradchandler.com/contact. There, you can join the Facebook community of like-minded entrepreneurs, and you'll see a button to schedule your freedom and happiness call. See you on the next episode.